Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare. PNC, Grow Up Great. Valley Bank. The Russell Berry Foundation, making a difference. The Northward Center. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. The New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Johnson & Johnson. And by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, moving the region through air, land, rail, and sea. Promotional support provided by AM 970 The Answer and by NJ On Air.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at it.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Hi, Steve Adubato here. For the next half hour, you're going to meet three extraordinary women who happen to be great leaders in the world of business. This is Women in Leadership. And we kick it off with our very good friend and colleague, Michele Siekerka, who is the president and CEO of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. How are you, Michele?
Hey, doing great, Steve. Thank you.
Put this in context for us. We're meeting Michellene Davis on this and also on this program, and also Jessica Gonzalez. The BIA had a forum. What was it called?
It's our annual Women Business Leaders Forum. We host it every fall. This year we hosted it on a virtual platform, but we had extraordinary attendance, great participation, and momentum through the roof, Steve.
Yeah, and last year I was proud to be a part of it. Last time we were together physically, we had some great forums that I was able to moderate. Michele, put this in perspective. And by the way, we'll put up the BIA website as we do this. How challenging to put together a virtual forum event like this with so many women and others in leadership and around and women in business. How difficult and how different?
Yeah, well, it was brand new. I mean, kudos to my team. They went out and identified different platforms. We were running on 3 or 4 different platforms. So we had one platform that kind of pulled it all together. And from there, we had Zooms and go to webinar, and some things were pre-recorded, some things were live. We learned a lot through it. We had fun with it. We were a little challenged along the way, but it turned out to be an extraordinary program, and that's a testament to the women who participated.
And, by the way, check out our program, Lessons in Leadership. We did a really terrific Q&A that Michele and I did that was sponsored by the Business and Industry Association. We'll be showing excerpts on that on Lessons in Leadership. But we talked an awful lot, you and I, about leadership. But I want to narrow this down because this program is about women in leadership. You've had a chance to look at this for a while and experience it. To what degree do you actually believe that leading, being a great leader for a woman, is any different than any one of us, any guy who's trying to be the best leader he can be?
Well, Steve, all I can say is the only leader I can be is a female leader. So I talk from the steps of being anything else. It's all I know, and it's all I've been. But I will tell you from my observations on
But you do have a lot of men who are leaders.
Yeah. No, it's, but it's true. I mean, my observations are for women. Yeah, we have to have a little bit more, I'll say, self-awareness. We have to have a little bit more observation of what's going on at any given point in time. We have to ensure that we adjust our own style to the people who we are working and talking with at any given moment, because I would suggest that women are judged more as leaders. And by judged, I mean a skeptical lens. I mean, people are judging, can she really do this? Does she really bring the game? Does she really have it? When men walk in the room, I don't think they come with that little bit of baggage that women have. I don't think men are judged when they walk in the room like a woman is.
But there's another part of this, Michele, which ties into something you and I have talked about before. We've talked about childcare an awful lot and its connection to business, to the economy, to all these issues we're talking about. I believe I told you we're involved in an initiative called Reimagine Childcare, formerly known as Right from the Start, NJ all about promoting quality, affordable, accessible childcare. Those issues disproportionately fall on women. I'm not saying men are not affected by it, but women in leadership positions, particularly in business, more of an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. We see it playing out more than ever right now in the COVID world. You can look at any study that's out there. Women are disproportionately affected by childcare issues in COVID. You know, the students are home remote learning. We can line up, look, it's difficult on any parent who's trying to work from home and tend to a child, especially one who's learning during the day, right? I certainly was not vocationally brought up to be a teacher. I'm a lawyer by trade, and I'm a CEO of my organization. I wasn't trained to be a teacher. I'm fortunate I have 28-year-old twins who aren't home in a remote work environment while I'm tending to the needs of our business community. But I see in my own staff the challenges, and I see the guilt. I see the guilt? Particularly of mothers, yes. Particularly of mothers who feel that they're letting their children down because they can't, be there to hold their hand through this whole environment because they're home trying to work at the same time. So no, any study out there right now says disproportionately COVID affects women in the workplace.
And what changes do you believe need to be made from a public policy point of view? Because you're pretty government hands-off and don't get in the way of business unless you're going to be helpful. And you've had some real clear thoughts about when it's not helpful. You've never held back. And you know government. You served in government to disclose, right?
Absolutely, yes.
What, if anything, could and should be done from a public policy point of view to be more supportive of families, disproportionately women leading families when it comes to the issue of childcare, if these women are going to be the most successful women in the workplace?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so there are certain roles that government does play. I mean, government provides, vital services and support, especially safety net programs, right? For those who don't have a support system at home, something government does provide is childcare, especially for those who, again, don't have other support where they can get that. So, what do we need to do on the whole? We need to look at our childcare policies that are out there right now. In this remote world, we need to enable other childcare centers to quickly become safe havens for students to learn if they're not going to be able to learn in a classroom right now. We see a lot of nonprofits pivoting to provide those types of learning circles, if you will, and they have to get licensed as childcare facilities. No easy task. I talked to one last week. The money that it takes to go through that licensing process, and I know government's trying to work with them to get it done, but oh my gosh, to dot the I's and cross the T's from a regulatory perspective, significantly challenging.
To what degree do you believe, by the way, Steve Adubato, Michele Siekerka, this is our Women in Leadership series. You'll see the graphic up on the screen. To what degree do you actually believe there's some sort of quote unquote sisterhood? And I know this sounds like a cliche, but I mean that. You bring a lot of women together, and they always strike me as being very supportive of each other. Are they as supportive of each other, by and large, overall, than what appears to me to be the case?
So let me say, I'm a firm believer in best practices and connections and connecting people who have something in common where they can help each other. That could be women to women who are both working mothers because they can share strategies on how they make it work with each other. I think that's significantly important. But that kind of goes across the board for any type of situation where people need to lift and support each other through. We need to bring folks who are having similar situations and challenges together to help collectively to brainstorm, again, especially now more than ever. Yeah, there is somewhat of a sisterhood because of shared values, shared culture. There is nurturing.
A mentoring component? A mentoring component as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Women do tend to lean toward mentoring, either mentee or mentor. And we know, Steve, that's a two-way street, right? And the best type of mentoring is informal mentoring, where you just look and observe the traits and characteristics of those that you want to emulate. And learn from that and observe, right? And then go to those people and say, hey, by the way, can we have a discussion about how you got there or how you do that? But at the same time, as a mentor, you need to be informed by the mentee because you learn so much. I've learned more from people who I've tried to share stuff with than I'm sure I've given them by way of advice. Well
said. Michele Siekerka, the president and CEO of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, kicks off our Women in Leadership program. Stay tuned for two other really compelling interviews. Michele, thank you for being a partner and a friend and making a difference every day. Thank you.
As always, Steve, thanks so much. And thanks for the focus you give to women's leaders here in the state of New Jersey. It's really important.
It's our honor. Steve Adubato will be right back.
To watch more one-on-one with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
As we continue our discussion about women in leadership, we're joined by Jessica Gonzalez, founder and CEO of InCharged, also Lux Disinfect and Vend X. I mean, how many companies are you running?
As many as will keep my children fed. So unfortunately, it's 3 right now.
Yeah, by the way, we're doing this in cooperation with our friends at the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. They had a great women's leadership forum, and you participated in that, Jessica. I just keep writing the word entrepreneur next to you. Were you born to be an entrepreneur?
I'd like to think so. I mean, I didn't know straight away that that's what I was going to be. It's just what I became. And I think that's what was ingrained because I wake up every morning with the drive to innovate, create, and do what I do. So I think I was born an entrepreneur. I just didn't realize it until 10 years ago when I took that leap and just did it.
And the branding behind you, what does it stand for? Lux UVC.
Yes. So when I was putting these UVC kiosks together, Lux means light in Latin, and UVC was the first branding that we started with, which it was supposed to be a UVC company, but it turned into a disinfection company. So that's one of our product lines.
So break it down for us in 30 seconds each. InCharged is?
InCharged is a brandable event technology company that builds cell phone charging kiosks, photo booth, and experiential vending machines for some of the world's biggest events and brands.
And you came up with that concept?
Yes, 10 years ago.
Lux Disinfect is?
Lux Disinfect is a sanitization company that was born out of necessity through COVID when our InCharged business was shut down. At Lux, we build, design, and assemble UVC-like technology, as well as source and distribute electrostatic spraying, and a bunch of other sanitization solutions and tools.
And finally, Vend X.
Yes, Vend X was born about 2 years ago. It was a smart vending machine and software that allows brands to interact with the consumer while rewarding them with a sample or a prize. Since COVID shut down, we pivoted Vend X to be a touchless sampling and PP vending machine.
So, Jessica, I'm a student of leadership, student of innovation. You are an innovator. You're a leader. What would you say the key characteristics, the key traits to be a successful leader / innovator in these incredibly challenging and uncertain times? Go ahead.
Oh, wow. So especially during COVID, our business went to literally 0 in revenue a month. And I think as a leader for my team, for my family, for everybody around me, I had to just keep going and not stop. I was on a panel before and I said, don't be scared. And another CEO said, it's okay to be scared. And it's true. It's all right to be scared, but it's not a right to not act or try to do something. And, my motivation were my children, my family, my peers, my colleagues, everybody that's working for me. I had to get out there, innovate, create, and build a path forward so this disease doesn't, end up taking us all down with it. So yeah, it's just not stopping, not sleeping, and just keep going.
You're tenacious, aren't you?
I have to be. Yes, I have 2 children. So,
I like that you said that because I talk to our kids about tenacity, persistence, no quit, right? I actually have this ridiculous, can you see this?
Yep.
Right, I have it here just because there are times I'm tempted to give up. It's actually not an option. It's clearly not an option for you. And one of the things that strikes me as I think about the New Jersey Business and Industry Association Women Leadership Forum. I'm betting there are a fair number of women, if not virtually all of them, who are very tenacious as well, or they wouldn't have been there, right?
Absolutely.
What did you find there when you participated? What traits did you see in those folks other than that persistence and tenacity?
I think women in general have this nurturing side to them, and that could be also put into business as well. You can take care of your people. You can nurture a product. You can nurture a process. It's been a really hard road, not only being a woman, a minority, a mom, and having all these things stacked against us. And I think sometimes men start at a higher number to get to the end goal, where women don't have as many opportunities. So when I see fellow women that are tenacious and leaders, that just shows me that they've broken through and they've strived even when they've had everything against them. Not only that, but also children. You have to raise kids at the same time.
Yeah, we're involved in a child care awareness initiative called Reimagine Childcare. And I can't imagine how complex it is for you and others. Real quick, before I let you go, what's up next for you?
I'm just riding the wave of this new business that we're in. I want to continue to innovate. More importantly, being able to provide products that can get people to open safely and cost effectively. So just being fluid and flexible with change and keep on going, never give up.
Status quo, never an option. Change is a must.
Yep.
Hey, Jessica, I want to thank you for joining us in this Women in Leadership program. All three women featured are strong leaders. We can learn from them, and we definitely learned from you. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you so much.
I'm Steve Adubato. We'll be right back.
To watch more one-on-one with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
We continue our discussion. Women in leadership, a very strong leader, happens to be a woman. She is someone we've had on many times, Michellene Davis, Executive Vice President and Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, RWJBarnabas Health. Wow, are you a strong leader? And I've known it for about a decade. All right, you ready? Let's do this. I've asked you a million questions on air and off. You're a kid growing up in Camden, New Jersey, correct?
Correct.
Were you a strong leader back in the day?
I think at about 6 years old, I was usually the one who was getting in trouble on the playground because I was always breaking up the fight. I was always trying to boss folks around who were getting out of turn. So I'm going to say yes to that, Steve.
Were you organizing as well at such a young age?
You know what's really interesting? I don't recall whether or not that was at 6, but I do distinctly recall that, and I don't know how old you are in the second grade. I distinctly recall getting folks together in order to decide that we wanted to have the classroom changed. We wanted the furniture elsewhere because we wanted to be closer to, I have no idea, because we wanted to be closer to the exit so that recess, we would be the first ones in, yes, the dodgeball lane so that we would not be in the center. Absolutely.
You know, you are proving the theory that some have, I'm not sure I buy into it, that the greatest leaders are born versus, quote, made. And I've always believed it's a combination. But what you just described, did anyone teach you how to be that kind of leader at such a young age? Or is it in your DNA or both or what?
So,
by the way, you had no idea I was going to ask you any of this stuff. Go ahead.
All true. But Steve, look, you're talking to the daughter of a bishop, right? And a social worker who, my parents were also foster parents to other children. And so I think I saw leadership lived out really early on. I saw accountability lived out and a great deal of integrity, upfront and personal. So if no one else was going to step forward, we were not going to wait, right? I grew up in that household where rather than say someone should do something about that, my father always said, we're going to do something about that.
But let me ask you this. The event that took place, the initiative with the BIA, Business and Industry Association in New Jersey, what was that forum like? Because it was also virtual. What was it like, that Women in Business Leadership Forum?
First of all, Michelle does an absolutely incredible job, right?
Michele
And so
Siekerka,
I wondered about that. She's amazing. She's going to talk about a strong leader, right? So the fact that she had to pivot to a virtual platform with the attendance that she had and the momentum of that particular conference, right, I was a little concerned. But I will tell you this, it was without a blip. I mean, really, she pulled it off without a hitch. I understand that their numbers were extremely high and that they had a lot of participation. I know that we had questions, and she gave us a really interesting format so that we would each have a little TED Talk. And so there were three of us, very different, as you indicated previously, very different individuals from different backgrounds. And we just had an opportunity to talk a little bit about our story. It was great.
So, the other part of this, Michellene, is, and again, if you want to talk more or listen to more of what Michellene Davis has to say, she's also a board member of the Caucus Educational Corporation, and RWJBarnabas Health is a significant underwriter of our work. But if you want to listen to what Michellene has to say about leadership, check out our companion program, Lessons in Leadership, that I host with a, let's say, very strong leader, Mary Gamba. Just want to say that, because she's also on this call somewhere listening in. So, Michellene, when it comes to women in the workplace, this study that was done, as it relates to COVID, women leaders who happen to be African-American, Hispanic, Black and brown women, are they challenged in different ways as leaders during this pandemic? And if so, how?
Yeah. So I think two things, Steve. One, I think that, we are all challenged, but women in particular. I think that women as a whole are significantly challenged right now as we go through COVID because of everything from traditional gender roles, so they are at home being caretaker, as well as, quite frankly, issues in really helping women to get further along in their career, right? So many of them are trapped in that mid-management level. And so as a result of that, they don't have a lot of agency over how and where, they can work. So they are literally still showing up on their team Zooms and on their WebEx meetings with the frequency that they had when they were in the office. The problem is that they've got a kid, by the leg, not being seen on the video, and they are serving as teacher and principal and disciplinarian and cafeteria worker, as well as mother and oftentimes wife or partner, etc. Right? And so as a result of that, I think that is an additional burden that lots of organizations, which in their hierarchy have a lot of men in the decision-making roles. I am so not anti-male, but what I will tell you is that
not. I can attest to that.
I am so not. I'm a daddy's girl. You know that. So I would never be. But there is something to be said for the patriarchy, right? And literally setting policies through a lens that may not fully understand the space that needs to be created so that women and their concerns and considerations and the special uniqueness that we often have in life are already at the forefront. I think to your question particularly, my second prong is that, here we are, and I've said this before, in a global pandemic and an international revolution around racial injustice. Right? So two things. One, in this global pandemic, we are seeing the fact that Black and brown communities are suffering a disproportionate rate of mortality as a result of COVID-19. Additionally, we are also seeing we're seeing the fact that attention is being paid to lots of racial trauma and historical racial injustice that has occurred. So those two things are extremely pronounced. So why is the first thing relevant? The first thing is relevant because the likelihood of an individual who knows someone else who has perished to COVID-19 when you are in and of those communities is that much higher than your white counterparts. So we're all going to work. We're all saying, oh my goodness, I can't wait for the pandemic to be over. But the difference is I may have lost, like a dear friend of mine, 6 people in my family's COVID-19, right? Her white counterpart doesn't even know a person who's perished, right? And so we're going to work every day weathering that, as well as weathering the fact that, what the CDC is telling us, that we, despite the fact that our contact rate may be the same, our infection rate, so if I and my white counterparts are exposed, perhaps in the office or anywhere else, I am 5 times more likely to actually get infected than they are, right? And 2 times more likely to perish.
Talk about the pressure, talk about the anxiety associated with that.
Oh, my word.
Let me ask you this. We could actually do a separate interview with Michellene about this. Michellene, just plug this so people can watch that second interview. This is a book that you co-authored with Barry Ostrowski, the the CEO of RWJBarnabas Health. Tell folks 30 seconds left. What is that so we could plug the other interview? Go ahead.
Absolutely. Changing missions, changing lives. It's how a change agent can turn the shape to create impact. Created with Barry H. Ostrowski, the president and CEO of RWJBarnabas Health. It's really how we adopted a new mission and then adapted our organization to flow in the direction of that mission.
Can't think of a better way to close the show, because talk about innovation, leadership, being courageous, going against what people think the traditional model of the healthcare organization should be. That's exactly what Michellene was just talking about. Hey, Michellene, thank you. I learned more about how assertive you were in second grade, and I'm not surprised at all. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. Enjoy.
Good stuff. I'm Steve Adubato. That's Michellene Davis, and don't mess with her, especially in the second grade. We'll see you next time.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by the Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare. PNC, Grow Up Great. Valley Bank. The Russell Berry Foundation, the Northward Center, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Johnson & Johnson, and by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Promotional support provided by AM 970 The Answer, and by NJ On Air.
The essence of the Northward Center is ingrained in our values, thoughts, and actions. What began as a storefront on Bloomfield Avenue has evolved into a life-changing community nonprofit. The mansion is steeped in tradition, but with all of its grandeur, the true essence of the Northward Center is in the people we serve. So as the Northward Center commemorates 50 years of service, let's also celebrate the many opportunities yet to come.